it's time. What up, Naughty Steppers? It's Connor Whitmore here again with another video for you on the Nawtystep channel, and it is time for the AMA, the Ask Me Anything, the Q&A, the question and answer, whatever you want to call it. As you will all know, I'm making this video because I reached the milestone of 1k subs, and before I get into this video, I just have to thank you guys all so much for helping me reach this point. Honestly, it's been a fantastic journey so far. My target at the beginning of the year when I started doing this was 500, but I wouldn't have been able to do it without the support and love from you guys, commenting on the videos, exchanging thoughts and ideas about the stuff that's being covered. So really, I am eternally grateful, and it's only onwards and upwards from here. I feel like I've said this a lot of times before, but there is a lot to look forward to with the Nawtystep channel and concept. I've been working on all of it over the last few months, and it will be coming out in dribs and drabs over 2019, hopefully. So yeah, very excited to show you all of that stuff. It's changing, times are changing. But without further ado, it's time to get into the AMA itself. And I'm not gonna lie guys, you came up with some very good questions. I'm not gonna be answering these in any particular order, I don't think, just sifting through them and giving you my answers. I haven't scripted anything for these, apart from a couple which I felt like I had to. But yeah, just gonna be giving my honest, off-the-cuff answers to these questions, some of which are revealing, some of which are just completely music-based. It's going to be fun, I can tell you that much. So the first one comes from Lastronica. Actually, he or she has asked me quite a few. Opinions on record labels, any favourites? My opinion on record labels is that they're great. They collate music in this fantastic way by grouping together specific artists of types of music that we like. Yeah, I mean, beyond that, not really sure what else to say. And in terms of favourites, I mean, yeah, of course I have my favourites. I'm going to go through the ones that aren't dubstep first to kind of warm up to that. But yeah, okay, so who have we got? We've got Confession, Night Bass, Gold Digger. They're all house labels. Then we've got Critical Music and Meth Lab. They are drum and bass labels. And then dubstep, I'm going to go Never Say Die, of course, Disciple, of course, and then Audio, Interval and Bassweight Records. The second question from Lastronica is, ever considered producing music? Yes, I have. I've actually created a couple songs with a couple of friends of mine from school. We were called Triptych. If you want to hear those tracks, I shall link them in the description box down below. Favourite thing about being a content creator? Specific to what I'm doing, I would have to say the act of writing the review itself, whether it's an EP or album compilation review, and getting right exactly what I want to say about it, and then actually putting it up and sharing it with the world. And then obviously when a artist or producer or label responds to me with what they think about it, as well as you guys just telling me what you thought about what I said, or everyone just having general conversation, is what I enjoy about it the most. And the least favourite thing about being a content creator, I would have to say the filming process. I'm not that keen on it, just because when I review something, I want to say exact things pretty much to the word, because I want to make sure that everything that I think about this project is, or it comes across. That can be quite a long process when I'm filming it, in terms of remembering what I'm saying, looking at the screen, remembering that, and then presenting it to the camera, remembering it pretty much word for word. Whenever I'm looking to the computer in a video, that's when you can tell that I've done it multiple times and I've just got tired of saying it, so I kind of drift my head to the computer to check what I'm saying. And the last question from Lastronica is, favourite upcoming artist that you don't think many have heard of? Very good question. Lastronica, you really are coming up with the good uns. Again, for this one, I've actually written some stuff down. So who have we got? For dubstep, I would say Poseidon. Trap, I would say Bad Rapper. House, I would say JDG. Drum and bass, I would say Except. And other, I would say Itchy and Monuman. Definitely look out for all of those guys' stuff, all putting out absolute fire at the moment. I'll link all of their SoundCloud profiles in the description box down below. The next question comes from Manic-6, process for research on artists and labels. I plan to do a future video on this, a pretty extensive one, which will detail exactly how I go about researching all of my music. So look out for that when it comes out in the future. The third question comes from Redemption, aka Raphael, and he asks, who is or are the artists that made you fall in love with dark electronic music? And again, this is one of the ones that I just had to make a list for because I didn't want to miss anyone out. This is a pretty long list, so brace yourself. We've got Skrillex, Pendulum, Knife Party, Deadmau5, Nero, Dylan Francis, 501, Subfocus, Feed Me, X-Core, Zed's Dead, Chase and Status, Flux Pavilion, Dr. P, Zomboy, Alvin Risk, Hadouken, Jacob Plant, Magnetic Man, Imalke, Bar9, Kill the Noise, Far Too Loud, Pegboard Nerds, Extract, Netsky, Borgor, Cohen Sound, Excision, Schism, Dodge and Fusky, Must Die, Showtech, Space Laces, and Let's Be Friends. So yeah, I mean 20 to 30 artists there, but they all had a massive impact on how I viewed music, bass music in particular, and were very important in kind of structuring and shaping how I feel about music today and with it generally going forward. The next question comes from Hannah R. Walker, who asks, top 5 dark electronic music genres. If we are kind of seeing dark electronic music as the umbrella term for everything, so dubstep, trap, drum and bass house, whatever, then I suppose they count as genres, maybe subgenres in that respect relative to the question, but I think we want to go a little bit deeper than that. So beyond those main genres, I think I would have to go with, I've written these ones down as well, brostep, intricate drum and bass, so like the feathery kind of stuff, acidic rhythm, vocal trap, and dark house. And her final question is favourite Aitken flat 17er, and for those of you that don't know, which will be actually I think all of you, I lived in flat 18 in my first year of university next to Hannah, who was in flat 17, and she is asking who my favourite person from flat 17 was, and Hannah, I think I would have to go with Ed. The following question comes from Yuki, or Yucky, who asks, would you consider reviewing viewer-based musicians like myself in the future? I'm not quite sure what a viewer-based musician is. If it is what I think it is, which is kind of someone who doesn't get that much exposure compared to others, then I do have a plan for that. It's one of my ideas that will be coming into fruition at some point in 2019. So yeah, look out for that, and I hope this answers your question. I'm sorry if it didn't. The next question comes from Batesy, aka my good friend Luke, who asks, who would win in a fight, you or Anthony Fantano? For anyone that doesn't know, Anthony Fantano, aka The Needle Drop, is probably the biggest music reviewer in the world. He has amassed 1.6 million subscribers on YouTube to my knowledge. And if we're talking about sheer brawn here, I mean, Anthony, I think, would definitely spark me straight out in a fight. A couple full-on baxes straight round the face would knock me clean out. But if we're talking about using our words to give us our power, then I think I could give him a run for his money. But Luke, I think your question centres around who would win in a sort of fisticuffs, hands-on battle. And to be honest, I think we would get to having that moment and we would be in front of each other, and I think we would agree that we shouldn't do this. I think Anthony is a very peaceful guy, definitely strikes me as a bit of a pacifist. He is a vegan, of course. He is all about no violence, no crime, no hurt, no hate, no harm. So yeah, I think we would get to that position and we would find it hard to get in a fight because we're just, you know, we're not all about that conflict, I'm afraid. But you know, like, if he wants to fight, then I'm coming for him. Following that, we have a question from Rick Gizmo, who asks, is there a particular track or album that got you into heavy electronic music? Okay, another good question. So, the moment where I remember everything changing was actually in the living room of this very house. I was about 15, maybe 16. Probably 15, it was 2010, and I was sat on my mum's computer scrolling through YouTube, and suddenly I see this thumbnail on the side which had a very angled kind of artwork to it, and it said Skrillex, Hey Sexy Lady remix, and I thought, that sounds pretty hilarious slash funny slash interesting, I'll give that a click. And I ended up listening to the song and falling in love with those robotic sounds and screeches and growls straight away. So from there was no turning back really. And in terms of an album in particular, then I think I would have to go with either Welcome Reality by Nero or not so much an album, more an EP, 100% No Modern Talking by Knife Party. The next question comes from Max Brighouse, who asks, if you could see any artist or band, dead or alive, who would you see live? Whew. Ooh, that's a toughie. Gee, Max, you've really stumped me on this one. I suppose if we're talking about any artist and not just dark electronic music necessarily, then I think I would have to go with either Michael Jackson or the Beatles. And his second question is, what festival would you like to go to that you haven't been to yet? I've got quite a few answers for this one actually. Once again, they're all written down, so we've got Burning Man, Ultra, Tomorrowland, Holy Ship, Bass Rush. I mean, those are just a few. If I put my mind to it even more, I could probably name 10 or 20 more. The next question comes from Larson Evans, who asks, what was the first rhythm track you ever heard and what were your thoughts? Oh gosh. I have absolutely no idea what the first rhythm track I ever heard was, but I can't remember liking it, I must admit. However, because I can't answer that, I think I will try to compensate by telling you about a couple of rhythm tracks and artists who have really impacted me over the last couple of years. So the rhythm track that I've probably enjoyed most is Genji by Wave Mode. He's also produced another few heaters that I really love. But yeah, if you haven't checked him out before and like the rhythm genre, or even if you just like dubstep generally, I think he's a really good artist to kind of get into that style of music. I'll link his SoundCloud in the description box down below. Also, if you haven't heard of CC Maya, you should definitely check out his or her music as well. Very good, only found out about him or her this year. But yeah, really good stuff. One of the few artists really getting me into rhythm music. Following that, we have a question from Timeline Official, who asks, if so, why do people hate monks? This is a video that was covered extensively by my friend Brian, the Festival Vanessa. I will link the video that he made about monks a few days ago in the description box down below. Check it out, it explains the situation very well. One of the things I would say on the matter, however, is that I'm not a fan of all of these producers calling him out on Twitter for not collaborating with him. I mean, this is something they could say to him in like a DM, for example, just tell him to stop doing it. But no, they have to share it with the public and shame him and compound all of his miseries. I mean, it's just for retweets and likes really, it's just for attention. Everyone knows the guy's done wrong, but you don't have to make it even worse for him. He is human after all, so yeah, I think before you kind of engage with producers doing all of these things, really think about why they're doing it and kind of get off Monks' back a bit. I know he's done bad stuff and I'm not kind of excusing him for what he's done, but as I said, he is human. We need to work with him and, you know, encourage him towards doing better things. And with all that hate around him, he's not going to do that. He's probably embarrassed being around all of these people. That's why he doesn't go to the shows. Mini rant over. Mr. Timeline Official has a couple other questions. So, who's the biggest producer you've met up close? Very good question. So up until Lost Lands, I think I would have to say Pegboard Nerds. One of my friends spotted them in the crowd at a Knife Party gig when we were at a festival in 2014, and they were just so chilled, so funny, just, you know, dancing with everyone else. But at Lost Lands, I met Sudden Death and Space Laces with Erin, Rinier, and they were both really nice, genuine guys. But what's more, they recognised both of us because of the work we're doing on YouTube. It was absolutely mad, like definitely up there with the most surreal moments of my life. I'll never forget Ian Slider, Space Laces coming up to me and saying, yo, I was watching the review with my dad and he was just sitting there going, yo, you know, this kid really knows what he's talking about. That was like, oh my god, a part of me just died inside. But yeah, biggest producers I've met, probably Sudden Death and Space Laces. And Timeline Official's final question is, UKF or DSG? I mean, come on man, is that even really a question? There would be no DSG without UKF. UKF is just pure nostalgia. It's where everything comes from. Like everything that you hear today would not be there without UKF. The next question comes from Dante Coates, who says, where do you find out about when, where raves are taking place? This is something that I feel needs to be addressed because a lot of people don't know about this stuff, plain and simple. For me, the main place to find out about these events is definitely Facebook. What I think you should do is click attending to every event that happens in your city that you're interested in, even if you can't go, because this is how it works. An event is boosted on Facebook, and the way that that's done is by selecting similar tastes or pages that will be similar to that event. So when it's boosted, people who like those pages will find out about these events. The more gigs and events that you click attending to, the more you'll be infiltrated into that algorithm, meaning that when these things are boosted, you will find out about them easier. I really hope that that makes sense and that it answered the question. If you want any more clarification on it, then drop a comment down below. Following that, we have a question from Brooklyn F. Barber, who asks, do you have a girlfriend and is she sexy? Yes, Brooklyn, I do have a girlfriend and oh gosh golly. Yeah, I'd say she is. I can't, you know, I can't answer this question. For those of you that don't know, Brooklyn F. Barber is my girlfriend. The next question comes from August Ford. Since the beginning of Brostep, pre-drop vocals have barely changed at all. A pre-drop vocal in style of Guess I Got My Swagger Back, which is 10 years old, is still the same style used in songs today. Do you think that's testament to them being perfect for the spirit of dubstep songs, or just unimaginative production for artists never having moved away from them? Good question. I think personally it is testament to them being perfect for the spirit of dubstep music. They're playful and don't take themselves too seriously. They're energetic and they get you going in a kind of dancing environment. So yeah, I think in that sense they are perfectly fitted for dubstep music generally. To be honest, the example that you've used here, Guess I Got My Swagger Back, 10 years old of course, but I wouldn't say that they're still the same today. I mean, you can hear that one is quite rough around the edges and fits that kind of music, that Excision song to my knowledge being like a kind of like a plodding one that isn't that quick. But now you have vocal samples that are fitted to all kinds of dubstep music, whether slow, fast, with rapid changes or not. So yeah, in that sense, I would even say that they've evolved over time in the last 10 years, as you're saying. And I wouldn't say in any way that it's a reflection on dubstep being unimaginative in any respect. If anything, I think it fits the mood and energy of that genre very well, perhaps perfectly. Because lest we forget, dubstep is one of the best genres for not taking itself too seriously. Really vital part of dubstep music now that I come to think of it. The next question comes from Drees360, who asks, what's the best dubstep song of all time in your opinion, and are you going to Rampage? Firstly, the best dubstep song of all time is It's Chode Gang Motherfucker by Chode Gang. And yes, I am trying to get to Rampage, I would love to. Erin Renier even said that she was thinking or planning of coming here for that. So yeah, I think that would be epic and great. It's probably the next realistic bass festival that I can get to. So yeah, who knows, gonna try all I can to get there. The following question comes from producer Jason Dykey, who asks, what does a song need for you to be really heavy and well constructed? This is a very good question because a lot of people see a conflict between music being heavy with lots going on and all of the sounds being very in your face and loud, and it being well constructed, ordered, organised, but a definite balance can be struck, and I think the key lies in making sure that all of the sounds are at the right tempo, volume and pitch, so that there's enough distinction between individual sounds that will make it sound well ordered and constructed and organised, and make sure that in between sequences, in your transitions, there will be a smooth running through your music. With heavy music, it's also all about having peaks and troughs, so that's why the drop culture is so prevalent, because you have that moment of calm at the start, normally with an intro, building up in the build of course, and then having that brief moment before the drop, then the drop, the loudness, and then all of the calm stuff again in a midsection potentially. You know, the music that just has heavy stuff for pretty much all of it isn't the stuff that people warm to anywhere near as much. Unless of course you're someone that enjoys rhythm music that replays the same 4 or 8 bars over and over again for 5 or 6 minutes. Next we have a question from Finbar Anastasiou. How long does it take you to make each video? I mean, it completely depends what kind of video we're talking about. If it's a top 5 or top 10 or opinion piece, that doesn't take as long as an album or EP review where I want to say the exact thing about a specific project And then you have the rave reviews, of course, which take nowhere near as long because it's just about compiling footage and editing it down. So yeah, it just completely depends on what kind of video it is. But with an EP or album review, for example, it takes me about 2 days to do it from start to finish. Because I've got to listen to the project at least 3 times, I've got to note down everything I think of it, then order all of that, then make all of it look concise and neat and well ordered and presentable. Then I've got to film it, then I've got to edit it and make it look relatively pretty for all of you, and then I've got to put it up and do everything that comes with that, you know, the YouTube stuff, so cards, end screen, thumbnail. So yeah, it's a proper 2-day job. His second question is, would you rather only be successful at making music or DJing others' music? Okay, whew, that's a bit of a deep one. I think I speak for most people here when I say that I would rather be someone who is amazing at producing music solely than someone who is solely good at playing it live, especially only other people's stuff. I mean, put it like this, would I rather be Daft Punk or Burial, who have put out some of the most extraordinary electronic albums of all time, but rarely ever play live, or DJ Diesel, who doesn't produce his own music, but just plays other people's stuff at live events and shows? I think I'll leave that one up to you guys. The following question comes from the Big Finichetti, aka Cole, who wants to know, if you had to explain why bass music is so great to someone who thinks that it's a joke and not real music, how would you go about it? Geez, I mean, this is a question that I get quite a lot, and not even framed in that way. I mean, I've had people saying it to me to my face. So yeah, I'm about to go in. This one is for the haters. There's something about bass music that captures and appeals to the primal instincts we have fundamentally as animals that no other music does, in my opinion. To be honest, I expend a lot of energy and willpower refraining from doing certain things, trying to live as stoic a life as possible, and bass music is the ultimate release from that. The perfect chance for me to let go from everything in the outside world. In terms of how it appeals to a wider audience, I would say that the energy of it is insane, and in coupling that with the overall colour of the music, is near unmatched across music generally. The sheer level of mastery needed to perfect a song of this type, choosing from a seeming infinite number of options and assembling them into one cohesive unit, it's completely without limits. Literally, of course, it is music, sounds that are ordered and structured with a particular purpose in mind, establishing patterns in the process. Those that think that music has to abide to certain rules, I feel, really need to check themselves. It's all about auditory transcendence beyond what we feel in our everyday lives, no matter how it's presented. And yeah, I think, Cole, in answer to your question, that is that. Polina Andreeva asks, would you rather never be able to laugh or find anything funny, or never be able to listen to music again? Oh god, that's a horrible question. But a very good one, I hasten to add. And honestly, I honestly can't choose between the two. They've both helped me so much, not only in terms of making friends, but also in helping me through tough times. And I know that both things are the same for everyone pretty much. Everyone loves a laugh, but then again, everyone loves music. It's the one universal language. So yeah, that's a difficult one, but I think knowing that the kind of music that I like isn't really shared by the majority of people that I know, then I think I would have to go with the laughing, I'm afraid. Hate to say it. Following that, we have a question from Der Tip, or Der Type. What do your parents think of dubstep? Ooh, another very good question. To be honest, I don't think either of them particularly like or dislike it per se. More than anything, I think they love that I love it, that I'm making something of my passion for it, and yeah, whenever I'm playing it, they know that that is what is keeping me happy, and that's what matters to them more than whether they like it themselves or not. But in further reference to your question, there may be a video coming out soon with one of them in it. Who knows? You'll have to wait and see. The next question comes from Ellis Buckinger, aka Outlaw, who asks, what is your dream festival lineup? Oh, Ellis, that is a question for another time. Following that, we have a few questions from Gisela Wright. The first one is, do you think dubstep will have another moment in the mainstream? Will it have to change and evolve to do this? An interesting cue, my friend. I think what dubstep represents now, what it's almost become too abrasive for popular consumption, having gone through bro step, vomit step, riddim, all of these things. People just don't really want to hear that, and I think no matter how you would frame it or shape it or make it more accessible, I think it would still be too much for the wider public to consume. Having said that, there are a lot of mainstream artists who use dubstep sounds in their production, so who knows, it could change and evolve once again, but to be honest, I think we're unlikely to see that in the immediate future. Next, we have a question from WCRII. Sorry, not quite sure how to pronounce that. And his question is, worst dubstep producer? Sorry man, but I'm not going to answer that one. It is subjective after all, but I will say this, whether it's dubstep, trap, drum and bass house, the thing that irks me most is poor mixdowns and the lack of clarity between individual sounds in the focal points of these songs. There are some huge artists out there that get away with murder in this respect, so I will leave it up to you to guess which ones I'm talking about. The penultimate question comes from Jack Price, who asks, which producer would you most like to have on the show and why? I think this is alluding to something I'm hoping to do in 2019 and beyond, but it would have to be Skrillex. The guy is the main inspiration for why I love this music so much, and he seems so passionate, genuine and philosophical. I feel like we'd have a great chat. And the final question comes from Indra Adnan, aka Mama Nawtystep, who asks, what's your vision for Nawtystep and what stands in the way of you realising it? Ooh, that's quite the burner. I don't want to reveal too many details about Nawtystep going forward and what I plan to do with the concept generally, but I will say this, I am looking to create a dynasty. And I think just the use of that word will give you an idea of the sheer scope that I want to branch this thing out into. But in terms of what will stop me from realising all of these things, well, that's another very good question. I think one of the main problems that I face, at least initially, is people just not getting on board with the idea of analysing dubstep music in this way. There are a lot of people out there that love it, like yourselves that are watching this video, but also some that just want to rubbish that idea completely from the off. So yeah, potentially just not enough people getting on board with the idea, especially with it being such a niche thing. On top of that, I think the relationship with the artist is also very important. Obviously it's great when they share my reviews and that helps me get more coverage and exposure, but it's also helping them out by talking about their music in a way that I don't feel anyone has before. So yeah, I think getting that relationship spot on and with enough respect behind it is very important in terms of achieving my goals going forward. But it also rests on my relationship with you guys, you know, what you would want to see more of on the channel, and me more often than not asking you what those things would be. After all, Nawtystep would be nothing without all of you, so if there are any changes or developments or improvements you would like to see on the channel and far beyond, then let me know and I will try to incorporate them. And lastly, obviously I think it depends on myself. You know, I have all these ideas and it's all about doing them one by one, step by step, progressively over time. And yeah, as I said, hopefully you'll get to see a bunch of them in 2019 and beyond. But, you know, that's all I can say. I have all these things to do. It's just about executing them along with all the reviewing I'm doing. So yeah, watch this space. The future is mad. And so guys, that is that for the AMA Ask Me Anything Q&A, question and answer, whatever you want to call it. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did, and will probably be doing one of these again at some point. But yeah, thank you very much, as always, for tuning in. Be sure to leave a comment with your responses to some of my answers, what you agreed with or disagreed with, your opinions on anything I talked about. I'm excited to see those in the comments below. If you're new here, I cover bass music across EP and album reviews, opinion pieces, top 5s, top 10s, rave footage, so if that's something that interests you, then consider subscribing. Next to my head somewhere there should be a link to the kinds of videos I do on the channel. and I recommend checking those out for a little starter. And lastly, if it's naughty, then you know guys, so be sure as always to keep it naughty and stay safe. And I shall see all of you legends in the next one. Peace out.